The story opens with a captivating commercial featuring Hima-Ren, a high school student and company president, leaving a young boy amazed by how she balances being both a model and a business leader. 16-year-old Tanichi Imori introduces himself with a smile, sharing his dream of one day building a cozy home of his own. For now, he's focused on his part-time job, house cleaning. Stepping into the house, he ties his headscarf, grabs a duster, and gets to work with enthusiasm. As he moves through the living room and bathroom, his dedication shows. He treats each space as if it were his own, pouring care and passion into every task. His meticulous efforts leave the home spotless, and he feels proud as his clients are his mother's friends, for whom he ended up working, and they send him appreciative messages for his work. On his way home, a picture of Hima-Ren catches his eye, sparking a moment of wonder. After arriving home, he is warmly welcomed by his siblings. His sister Makoto asks for help with her schoolwork, and after placing groceries down, he agrees to assist after making dinner. He announces they'll cook butter chicken curry together, teaching Shuji the recipe. While they eat, their mother, Momio, arrives, praises the meal, and hands Tanichi a parcel containing a key for tomorrow's cleaning job. The family is shocked he's taking on more work, especially with cram school. Tanichi then proudly shares that he's saved 678,000 yen for college, which brings their mother to tears, realizing his sacrifice for tuition. Shuji offers to help with his tasks. Standing up confidently, Tanichi jokingly claims his siblings can't help with cleaning since they wouldn't meet his standards, earning him the nickname house husband. Their mother, washing dishes, emotionally compares him to his father, explaining that their struggles began when his father was transferred for work and could no longer do house chores. Tanichi reassures her it's not his father's fault. Feeling a bit worn out from his routine, he heads off to study, aware that things will get tougher as he starts his second year of high school. Yet the key card for his new cleaning job rekindles his excitement. The next day at school, Tanichi is thrilled to discover he's in the same class as his friend Kanai, recalling their time together in junior high. As the class settles, their excitement peaks when the new transfer student, Himari Yoshino, is introduced. The students are stunned to realize she's actually Hima-Ren, the company's president. Her charm overwhelms the class, with some girls even crying from excitement. As Tanichi stares at her, he realizes she's the same girl he saw on the train, and she's indeed the company president. Amid the students' excitement, the teacher sternly quiets the class and announces that Yoshino will sit next to Tanichi, making him responsible for her today. Confused, he protests, but the teacher insists it's his duty as the new class rep, reassuring him of his dependability. With a resigned expression, Tanichi stays silent. The teacher then appoints Anoka Kanai as the sub-class rep, and she gladly accepts the role. As the girls eagerly volunteer to look after Himari, the teacher firmly declines their offers to avoid chaos. When Himari approaches Tanichi, he nervously asks if it's an issue for a well-known girl like her to be seen with him. She reassures him with a smile, saying she's not a pop star, so there's no need to worry. Despite his doubts, Tanichi is shocked to discover on his phone that Himari has 800,000 Instagram followers, confirming she's indeed a teen sensation. The boys are stunned that Tanichi doesn't recognize her or follow social media. To cover up, Tanichi claims he knows she's a company president. His classmates rave about her makeup line, TV features, and cute products, leaving Tanichi shocked by her high profile. The next day, he is overwhelmed by a crowd of students around Hima-Ren at his desk. He insists they clear out, but the girls scold him. As the crowd disperses, Tanichi is flustered about how to interact with Hima-Ren. She starts the conversation with a warm smile, asking if she can call him Imori. He asks if he can call her Hima-Ren, but she playfully suggests using her last name instead, noting his serious demeanor. Frustrated, Tanichi argues that last names are normal, but she charmingly changes the subject, downplaying the importance of her transfer and saying she doesn't need anyone to look after her. Confused, he gazes at her and questions why she would ask for help if she seems so capable. Himari, with a hint of innocence, explains that she believed it would make the transition smoother. She then leans in, whispering softly, and reveals that she prefers to start by getting to know the girls first. As Tanichi understands her reasoning, he notices the subtle fragrance of what could be his own perfume, adding a touch of intrigue to the encounter. She gracefully asks to borrow Tanichi's books since hers haven't arrived. Captivated by her charm, he agrees even when she sneezes and explains her dust allergy. As he watches her write, he imagines how her life would be perfect with an ideal home. During lunch, Tenichi, exhausted from the day's encounters, rests his head on the table. His friend teases him about being overwhelmed by the trendy city life. Tenichi, weary, describes being next to Yoshino as being surrounded by 10 fashionable, influential women. Amused, his friend continues to tease him. Kanae approaches, concerned about Tenichi's fatigue. He reassures her with a chuckle that Hima-Ren is fine and doesn't need his help, prompting Kanae to offer her assistance as the class's sub-representative. Tenichi, with a rueful expression, tells Kanae he was tricked into being class representative by his demanding teacher. Kanae playfully points out he never refused, and he admits he's used to such treatment. She smiles, wishes him success, and he thanks her, touched by her kindness. Kanae then shows Tenichi Yoshino's impressive Instagram following, making him feel disheartened for not having an account. As they chat, the teacher, visibly frustrated, scolds Tenichi for not managing Yoshino, who is reportedly causing a commotion in the cafeteria. Rushing to the cafeteria, Tenichi is stunned to find a massive crowd surrounding her. The students are thrilled by her transfer, with many eagerly asking about her makeup, while others marvel at her hairstyle and the lavish sums she spends at the salon. Everyone is clamoring to take her picture, and Hima-Ren poses gracefully as the camera shutters click around her. Seeing the chaos, Tenichi shouts for Yoshino so loudly that Kanae is startled. Shocked, she asks why he's so agitated. He responds that school is meant for learning, not for creating a scene. Quickly grabbing her by the hand, he pulls her out of the cafeteria. Confused, Hima-Ren asks if he's doing this because he's responsible for looking after her. Tenichi explains that the event is over, as ordered by the teacher. As they walk hand in hand, he sorrowfully admits she doesn't need anyone to watch over her. She initially retorts that she didn't ask for his help, but then, bowing her head and sighing, she apologizes for the commotion she caused. Seeing him tense, she requests him to release her hand. Realizing his mistake, Tenichi quickly lets go and apologizes. Blushing and feeling awkward, he notices her laughing at his flustered state. As he observes her amused reaction, he can't help but think she's being a bit patronizing. As they walk down the corridor, Himera shifts the topic, admitting Tenichi's help was crucial as she might have been a burden to the girls she was dining with. He wonders if her fame makes it hard for her to say no. She teasingly points out that he has the same issue, not refusing anyone either. Embarrassed, Tenichi chuckles and agrees. Himari explains she only turns down requests if she's uninterested, otherwise, she enjoys the attention her fame and makeup bring. Impressed, Tenichi realizes her actions come from a genuine passion for her work, not just her fame. With a bright smile, she expresses her delight at receiving all the praise for her work. Noticing Tenichi's understanding expression, she adds that she also accepts invitations because she doesn't want to tarnish her brand's image. As he listens and observes her, Tenichi envisions his own life as a diligent cleaner and finds her genuinely impressive. He feels he partially grasps her perspective. His reverie breaks when she inquires why he didn't turn down babysitting her. Confused by her question, Tenichi replies that he has no particular reason. Hima-Ren, yawning and evidently bored, dismisses his answer as inadequate. Frustrated, he feels she's either not taking him seriously or conducting an impromptu interview. With a sigh, he explains that, as the one responsible for household chores at home, he willingly takes on extra tasks when others fall short. Noticing her understanding expression, he shares that he, too, feels gratified when others appreciate his efforts. He optimistically believes his hard work will pay off eventually. Despite his frustration with the challenging role of class representative, he sees it as a chance to boost his school record. However, he adds that everyone wanted to show her around, and he faces more demanding tasks. Gracefully twirling, she tells him that by looking after her, he has already earned a reward. He's the first person she's gotten close to. Tenichi, noticing the distinct aura she projects depending on her hairstyle, is intrigued. Sensing his gaze, she abruptly turns and scolds him, insisting they're not friends yet and he shouldn't stare. She then strides down the corridor assertively, declaring that she doesn't need a babysitter and is eager to make friends with the other girls. Chasing after her, Tenichi exclaims that he's starting to understand why she's acting so condescending. Realizing his stomach is growling, he rushes back to the classroom, lamenting loudly that his lunch is likely ruined because he forgot to eat while dealing with her. Hima-Ren remains oblivious to her role in this. Upon seeing 3 types of light, flaky foods, she is astonished and asks if he really prepared all of this in the morning. As he prepares to eat, he explains he cooks complex dishes over the weekend and stores them in the fridge to save time. Himari admires the food, but just as Tenichi is about to dig in, she holds chopsticks, challenges him to rock, paper, scissors, and, after winning, claims the hamburger. Seizing it with chopsticks, she takes a bite. Tenichi, stunned and frustrated, realizes the hamburger was meant to be the main course. As she devours the hamburger with delight, she exclaims about its deliciousness. Eager to continue, she reaches to play rock, paper, scissors again. With growing irritation, Tenichi snatches up the remaining food boxes, insisting she can't eat it all. With a haughty glance, Hima-Ten demands he finish the food quickly if he doesn't want to share, calling him a cold-hearted man. He sternly reminds Yoshino that she has her own lunch to eat. However, she retorts that his homemade meal is far better than hers, then shifts her attention to other girls approaching her. Confused by her unpredictable behavior, Tenichi decides that while he may not fully understand her, he will respect her, but once his duty of watching over her is complete, he won't engage with her much. Later, he receives a message from his new client, Nakano, thanking him for cleaning the house. Inspired, Tenichi resolves to focus on work that brings him pride and satisfaction, just like Yoshino. After school, Tenichi feels a surge of happiness as he arrives at his new cleaning job. Holding the authoritative key, he opens the gate to a massive building, only to be shocked by the chaotic mess inside. Items are scattered everywhere, and even socks litter the floor. Although the building itself is impressive, he exclaims in disbelief at the filth. Seeing the garbage bags piled up, he thinks it's a shame that such a luxurious apartment is left in this state, with no one caring for its upkeep. As Tenichi adjusts his dust scarf, determined to help whoever lives in this apartment, he hears the door open with a key card, causing confusion since Nakano had said they'd be late. To his surprise, Yoshino walks in, wearing a mask. They both recognize each other in shock. She demands to know why he's here, and Tenichi responds with the same question. Not waiting for an answer, Himari notices his apron and exclaims, asking if he's the house cleaner. Himari exclaims that Tenichi guessed correctly before collapsing in embarrassment. He quickly sits in front of her, explaining he's just there as a house cleaner per Nakano's request. Sorrowfully, Himari reveals that Nakano is her aunt and legal guardian who moved to Tokyo with her. Tenichi is stunned when she says Nakano doesn't live there, it's her apartment, and she pays the rent. She clarified that she transferred schools to live independently. Tenichi, astonished, wonders how a high school student can afford such a luxurious apartment. Yoshino, offended, insists it's not unusual since she works hard. Realizing her dust allergy and recalling how she enjoyed his homemade food, he connects the dots. She vents her frustration, noting most cleaners are women and revealing she hired him because she knew he was saving for school. Disappointed to learn he's her classmate, she regrets not letting her aunt handle everything. Exhausted, Tenichi tells her that with her aunt absent, she's now his new client. Her furious reaction makes him realize that life with Hima-Ten, the company president, will be a rough journey. After a brief argument, she reluctantly agrees to hire him for bi-weekly cleaning sessions, each lasting 3 hours. With a serious tone, she emphasizes her reliance on him to maintain her home. He responds with a professional demeanor, assuring her that it's part of his job. However, he voices his concern about potential social issues with a man frequently entering and exiting her residence. She jumps up, furious, realizing that his cleaning job will persist until their graduation, causing her life to unravel. Shocked by her reaction, he retorts that she should find someone else. However, she insists on keeping him, knowing he has seen the chaos in her home. Despite his vow of discretion, she dismisses his promise with a defiant attitude, declaring it unnecessary. When asked if she really wants to conceal her messy home, she explosively declares that, as the president of a makeup brand, she must maintain a flawless image. It would tarnish her reputation if anyone discovered that she failed to keep her own house tidy. He thinks she's far from a failure. She warns him sternly that he's hired on the condition of absolute secrecy, or she'll hire a lawyer. He agrees, chuckling to himself, reflecting on how she's transformed from the innocent girl who once nervously asked to borrow his textbook at school. She flops back onto the sofa, nervously toying with her hair, unsure if she'll be comfortable with his cleaning services. Still, with a hint of arrogance, she warns him not to try anything out of line. He notes her now completely haughty attitude. Changing the subject, she questions if he's truly up to the task, given he's just a student. When asked what other chores she needs done, she lists everything: laundry, tidying up, and more, claiming the vastness of the apartment makes it impossible for her to manage alone. He can't help but think that she's not even making an effort to keep the place clean. As she walks, another sneeze interrupts her due to severe dust allergies, and she admits she needs a truly skilled house cleaner. He then pulls out a flashlight from his bag, calling it his secret cleaning weapon. When she inquires about the peculiar light, he sits down and switches it on, revealing a green beam that highlights all the dust on the floor, showcasing its effectiveness. Upon seeing the piles of dust illuminated by the green light, she leaps onto the sofa, horrified by the thought of walking through the grime. He reassures her, promising that she can inspect the floor after he has cleaned, emphasizing that he is dedicated to satisfying her. Offering her the flashlight, he asks if she still wants to hire him. Without hesitation, she snatches it from him and insists that he start cleaning immediately, warning him not to be lazy. Frustrated, he firmly tells her to take any action if she's dissatisfied with his work. He surveys the cluttered kitchen and begins tidying up, teasing her about how astonishingly messy she has left the place. With a passionate grin as he adjusts his dust scarf and smiles due to his love for work. However, she's taken aback by his laughter, unable to grasp its intent. He ignores her confusion and inquires about the contents of some boxes, which she reveals might be food and dishes sent by her aunt. Noticing her watching intently, he playfully asks if she's planning to observe him the entire time. Realizing she's too busy, she quickly retreats to her room, mentioning that she's available if he needs anything. After she leaves, he rolls up his sleeves and starts working. A few minutes later, he knocks on her room door and, finding it ajar, peeks inside. To his surprise, she's in the midst of changing her uniform. Flustered, he quickly turns away, bracing himself against the wall for support. She, equally flustered, apologizes profusely, assuring him that she's aware he inadvertently saw her in the midst of changing. She then demands his phone, explaining that she fears he might take unauthorized photos, much to his shock. Concerned, he asks if she's still upset about him entering her room, but she assures him that's not the issue. Instead, she's worried about her privacy being compromised due to her fame. With a firm tone, she instructs him to return only after completing all the chores. He feels a wave of gloom as he contemplates the overwhelming amount of work ahead. Ashamed, he chides himself for his earlier and recalls her insistence that she didn't need anyone's help at school, now feeling mortified in his presence. As he descends the stairs to buy groceries, he berates himself for forgetting that he's working in the home of a teenage icon. Despite the chaotic state of the apartment, which hardly reflects her celebrity status, he admires her ability to run an entire company and believes she could undoubtedly maintain her home if she puts the same effort into her home. After completing all the chores, he finally relaxes, admiring the freshly tidied curtains. He knocks politely on her door and asks if she's available. Without opening the door, she instructs him to wait a moment. On the phone, she discusses her latest product, mentioning that it garnered significant interest at school, and confidently predicts that orange will be the season's standout color. She thanks them for their previous efforts and requests additional work. Once the call ends, she invites him into her room. When he opens the door and informs her that he's finished the chores, he's taken aback by her appearance. In her room, she's transformed, sporting spectacles, a tomboyish outfit, and no makeup. Noticing his astonishment, she explains that she doesn't fuss over her look while working from home and warns him to get used to seeing her in this unglamorous state and to keep it confidential. Despite her appearance, he thinks she's not in a terrible state. She then stands, stretches, and taps her back, clearly worn out from the long hours of work. Now freed, she's ready to inspect his work. Observing her, Tenichi marvels at how she juggles being both a schoolgirl and a president. When she emerges with the flashlight, she's stunned by the pristine condition of the house. It gleams as if brand new. Impressed, she meticulously checks the floor with the light and finds no trace of dust. Sliding across the spotless floor, she nearly crawls in awe, as the immaculate surface is more intimidating than she expected, especially without a vacuum cleaner. Tenichi is shocked when she reveals that she doesn't even own a vacuum cleaner. In the kitchen, she glides her hands over the sparkling countertop, marveling at how immaculate it looks, almost as if it was newly purchased. Enthralled, she listens as he explains that he's washed all the dishes, placed them in the racks, and taken out the trash. Her appreciation grows, but she's intrigued by a tantalizing aroma and inquiries about dinner. Rubbing his head, he reveals 2 dishes, oyakodon and miso soup, freshly prepared for her. She's visibly impressed. When she asks why he didn't buy something ready-made, he apologizes, explaining that he couldn't find any decent store-bought options and wanted to ensure she had a home-cooked meal. Grateful, she thanks him for his effort. As he opens a water bottle for her, he watches her eat and asks for her thoughts on the meal. She feigns contemplation, weighing whether to praise him or not. His frustration boils over as he reminds her that she praised his cooking at school when she took his lunch, but now as a paying customer, she's withholding her admiration. She retorts that the situation is different now, and she's simply paying for the service. He's taken aback by what he feels is an unfair discrepancy. As she eats, a tinge of melancholy crosses her face, feeling like a failure for having her classmate cook dinner for her. He pours her a glass of water and reassures her, explaining that hiring services like cleaning and cooking is common, even if it's someone she knows. Handing her the glass, he emphasizes that as a successful company owner, outsourcing tasks like cleaning is a practical choice, not a reflection of her worth. Then, after removing his apron, he informs her that he's heading home. As she holds his cell phone, she asks if he's not taking it with him. When he returns to retrieve it, she holds the phone up in front of his face, unlocking it with his face recognition. Realizing what she's done, he shouts at her to give his phone back. She hands him his phone, explaining that she saved her number because it's been challenging to reach her through her aunt. Though he understands, he looks at his phone with an irritated expression and asks why she didn't simply ask for it like a normal person. She remains silent. Moments later, he receives a message notification from her. The message compliments him on his delicious cooking and also appreciates his cleaning skills. Confused, he tries to call her, but she doesn't even glance at him. Instead, she sends another message, asking him to make dinner every time he visits because she's tired of eating out. After receiving the message, he casually tells her that she could say all of this to his face instead of texting and agrees to cook for her. But instead of responding directly, she smiles and says there's no need to hand over his phone next time. She also confirms that she accepts him as her house cleaner. Tenichi is surprised when she adds that he was the one she intended to hire all along. Realizing this is her way of showing appreciation, he looks at her and understands. But then, with a warning tone, she points at him and firmly tells him to never walk in on her while she's changing again. Embarrassed, he loudly asks if she's still upset about that. The next morning, as Tenichi prepares lunch, he texts Yoshino, offering her some of the extra food he made. She asks if he can make it look like she cooked it herself, so she can take credit. Though initially confused, he agrees, remembering he has his sister's lunchbox. Yoshino agrees to take the homemade lunch but insists on paying for it. Grinning, Tenichi excitedly packs the meal, proudly labeling it Tenichi's special homemade lunch. As he enters the school, Tenichi overhears students still buzzing about Hima-Rin, wondering if she's really transferred, how cute she is, and how much they admire her. Standing at the main gate, he proudly thinks that he's probably the only high schooler giving a girl this homemade lunch. But when he calls her to let her know he's at the gate, he's stunned when she unexpectedly orders him to meet her at the back of the library. Following her instructions, when he arrives at the library and calls her, he discovers her sitting on the ground, trying to hide behind a book. The moment she spots him, she rises swiftly, presses a finger to her lips, and quietly motions for him to stay silent before sharply reprimanding him for being late. When he asks why she's hiding, she swiftly returns the book to the shelf and sharply reminds him that he's the one who offered her lunch, which she took despite the gamble. With a commanding flair, she opens her bag and imperiously instructs him to stow the lunch inside. In disbelief, Tenichi exclaims, demanding to know why she went to such lengths just to hide the fact that she's taking his lunch, and why their exchange feels so secretive. She quickly hushes him, explaining that she couldn't be seen accepting the lunch in the classroom, so this was her only option. As she takes the lunch, she asks if he made it look like she prepared it herself. When he confirms, she thanks him warmly. Seeing her happiness, Tenichi suggests they head to class, but she suddenly stops him, her tone firm, instructing him to wait 3 minutes before following her. He appears visibly irritated, finding her behavior quite vexing. As they leave the library, she warns him to avoid talking in class to prevent rumors. Turning to him with a serious demeanor, she reminds him that she's just a new transfer student and expects him to act normally. She awkwardly smiles as she instructs him to keep their arrangement as her house cleaner a secret. Observing her shift in behavior, he perceives her as arrogant and disapproving of their connection. As he slowly returns to class, he chatters and squeals with a mix of annoyance and excitement at the thought of her. As Tenichi enters the classroom, he smiles, seeing a group of girls gathered around Himari, admiring her flawless makeup and asking for her autograph. She responds with a radiant smile, already commanding attention. Shifting his gaze, Tenichi notices Yokomizo gazing at her with admiration. Yokomizo reveals that she's a dazzling combination of schoolgirl, student council president, model, and influencer, with such immense popularity that her last event was packed to capacity. He wistfully wishes he could sit beside her, while Tenichi privately muses that Yokomizo is oblivious to her true self. As Tenichi watches her, giving autographs and looking effortlessly cool with her fans, he reflects on how she seems like a completely different person at school. Imagining her home life, he starts to understand why she wants to keep her inability to handle housework a secret. Sitting at his desk, he resolves to act normally despite knowing her true nature. When she moves her chair back, she formally smiles and wishes him a good morning. He responds with an attempt at normalcy, wishing her back. After settling into her chair, she suddenly recalls something and, with a bright smile, thanks him for letting her borrow his notebook yesterday. Realizing they need to maintain this facade, he asks if she finally received her book. Seeing her emotionless response, he becomes slightly unnerved by her impressive acting skills, noting she wasn't like this at home. He doubts whether he can sustain their formal relationship. As Tenichi ponders, Kanae approaches, noting his anxious expression. She warmly greets him, and with a touch of innocence, asks for a few moments of his time. Standing up, he learns they need to collect notebooks for the teacher, and he agrees to join her. Passing by Yoshino, he smiles, thinking that while being her cleaner is a chore, his role as a class representative is a highlight. Just as they reach the classroom door, Hima-Ren abruptly stands and loudly calls out to them, leaving them both startled. Upon spotting Himari, both Kanae and she exchange bright good mornings, their smiles radiant. Tenichi, steeling himself for another potential reprimand to safeguard her secret, is taken aback when she instead showers Kanae with heartfelt admiration, finding her utterly charming. The shock deepens as Kanae, clearly bewildered, points to herself in disbelief, trying to confirm if the praise was meant for her. Hima-Ren quickly rushes over to Kanae, grabbing her hands and apologizing for her weakness for cute girls. She then warmly offers Kanae the privilege of addressing her by her first name. Kanae, still reeling from the surprise, regains her composure and reciprocates the admiration. They agree to call each other by their first names and confess that while they find each other cute, it's in their own unique ways. Tenichi, witnessing this exchange, flinches at the thought that Hima-Ren might be setting her sights on Kanae. After collecting the notebooks, Kanae gently comments on how disorganized Imori has stacked them and politely suggests they split the load and carry them together. Surprised, since he's accustomed to handling tasks on his own, he hesitates but agrees. As they walk down the corridor side by side, Imori quietly resolves to spend more time with Kanae this year. At lunchtime, Kanae looks perplexed as Hima-Ren, beaming with enthusiasm and holding her lunch, invites her to join for a meal. Kanae accepts the invitation with a smile. Tenichi, watching with irritation, sees that the other girls in the class also express their desire to join them. Excitedly, all the girls decide to eat together. Tenichi grows increasingly frustrated, realizing that if Yoshino and Kanae become friends, it will be difficult for him to avoid them. He worries that he may never get a chance to talk to Kanae. Seeing Tenichi's frustration, Yokomizo approaches with concern, suggesting they join the lunch. From his position a short distance away, Tenichi anxiously watches as Hima-Ren, surrounded by impressed girls, claims credit for the homemade lunch. The girls, astonished, ask if she made it, and Hima-Ren proudly affirms, adding that cooking relieves her stress. As Tenichi drinks water, he bursts out laughing at her transparent lie. Yokomizo chastises him for finding it amusing, her annoyance palpable. Tenichi seethes inwardly, frustrated by his own reaction. As her classmates eagerly request to see her lunchbox, Hima-Ren ponders to cut Tenichi's pay if the meal disappoints. Upon opening the box to reveal 3 exquisite dishes, all the girls marvel at the spread, and Himari's own hunger is stirred. Kanae, impressed, playfully teases that the lunch is extraordinary, even for Himari's standards. Trying to maintain her composure, Himari explains it's her first time using an insulated box, which has made her even more impressed with the meal. Tenichi feels a surge of joy upon hearing that Yoshino likes his homemade lunch. She starts eating gracefully, and Kanae comments on how cute she looks, noticing her happy expression as she enjoys the food. But when she says the meal is ordinary but special because she made it herself, Tenichi thinks she sounds a bit arrogant. Confused, he pauses his own meal when she adds that the food was intended solely for her. Blushing, he wonders why she can't show her admiration directly to him. After school in the library, Hima-Ren discreetly returns Tenichi's lunchbox, thanking him and insisting he promptly stash it away in his bag. Annoyed, Tenichi retorts that his lunchbox shouldn't be treated like contraband. Leaning in, Hima-Ren then inquires if he is very close to Kanae. Initially puzzled by her question, Tenichi calmly explains that they've known each other since middle school. To his astonishment, Hima-Ren admires Kane's cuteness and confidently reveals she wants to be friends with her. Though Tenichi fears this might limit his own time with Hima-Ren, she excitedly clarifies that if they all become friends, they can all enjoy conversations together. Hearing Himari's request, Tenichi erupts in frustration, reminding her that she previously discouraged him from getting too close. Hima-Ren, folding her arms and glaring with fierce intensity, retorts that she merely asked him to act normal and even wished him good morning. She also recalls his earlier laughter with visible irritation, prompting him to quickly apologize. Shifting the conversation, Hima-Ren hesitantly asks if he would still make her lunch on his days off from cleaning. He agrees but insists she must be more straightforward from now on. Curious about this new condition, Hima-Ren loudly inquires about his reasoning. Meanwhile, Kane, hiding behind a pillar, watches their interaction with growing concern, and when Himari casually announces her departure, Kane clenches her fists in frustration. The next day, as school ends, Himari waves cheerfully to Imori, promising to meet later, prompting him to ponder her statement as he has his second cleaning job after school. Walking down the corridor, he reflects that working at Himari's house would be easier if she acted as formally as she does at school. Noticing him, Kane approaches with a sigh. Sensing her tension, he asks what's on her mind. She admits to feeling anxious about her second day on the job after school. As Tenichi reflects on his job, he encourages Kane, assuring her that she will excel. She beams with gratitude in response. Unexpectedly, she asks about his recent encounter with Himari in the library. Tenichi, taken aback, loudly expresses his surprise, recalling the day she returned his lunchbox. Kane smiles, expressing happiness about how close he and Hima-Ren seem, but he immediately and loudly denies it, explaining that they just happened to run into each other that day and started talking by chance. However, Kane's face falls, and she sadly asks him not to brush it off as if it were a date. Realizing his mistake, he hesitates before apologizing, assuring her that he only wanted to avoid any misunderstandings since Yoshino is a celebrity. Kane, without directly responding to his apology, offers a polite smile and looks down, gently telling him that she doesn't mind if he and Hima-Ren are already close. Though confused, he starts to speak, but Kane calmly reassures him that she won't tell anyone. She waves goodbye, explaining that she needs to head to her job, and he wishes her well. As he watches her leave, he reflects on how, in Kane's eyes, Yoshino might be comfortable around him. However, with a gloomy sigh, he dismisses the thought, believing he's nothing more than a cleaner to her. Later, he's left puzzled when he receives a message from Himari, inviting him to meet her at a shopping station. Upon arriving, he finds the area bustling with people. When Hima-Ren spots him, she thanks him for coming, and he gulps nervously. Taking in her appearance, she's wearing a hat and a sweatshirt over her school uniform. Tenichi finds her appearance odd and disguised, but with a confident attitude, she claims it's perfect to avoid any issues if people see them together. Irritated, he loudly asks why she called him here. With an awkward expression, she explains that on his first day of work, he complained about the lack of a vacuum and other cleaning supplies, so they're here to buy everything he needs for cleaning and cooking. Realizing she's doing this for him, he softens a little, but when she admits she forgot to buy everything online the day before, he angrily points out that they're shopping not because of him, but because she forgot. Trying to calm him down, she offers to pay him extra for his time, but he refuses. She then adds that she'll pay him anyway, otherwise it might seem like they're just out together on a casual outing. During their shopping trip, Yoshino examines various vacuum cleaners, and after realizing Iomori has no knowledge about them, she gives him a disappointed look. He loudly defends himself, explaining he's never bought one before. She decides to purchase a well-known brand like Danson. When he points out that it's too expensive, she confidently responds that if someone's going to invest, they might as well go all in for the best results, plus it looks nicer. Shocked, Tenichi asks if she's actually concerned about appearances. In anger, she crosses her arms and accuses him of teasing her for living in a messy house. Although he quickly clarifies that's not what he meant, he wonders if she's behaving this way because she's starting to open up to him. Tenichi smoothly shifts the conversation, mentioning that he also needs a rice cooker since he used pre-cooked rice for the oyakodon on his first day, which didn't showcase his true cooking skills. Hearing this, Hima-Ren immediately spins around, her face flushing with frustration, and declares they should forget about the pricey vacuum cleaner. She's now determined to buy the rice cooker instead, demanding that he be a proper cleaner who can still handle a cheap vacuum. Tenichi easily agrees. At the checkout, as she pays for the items, he silently admires her generosity for covering the cost of such expensive things. Noticing his gaze, she casually asks if it's fine to have the purchases delivered, considering their size. However, Tenichi eagerly declines, explaining that if they wait for delivery, he wouldn't be able to use them immediately. With an excited grin, he shares that he's thrilled to cook with the pressure cooker, especially with a real iron pot. Hima-Ren, with a nonchalant smile, agrees. While riding the escalator, she teasingly warns Tenichi that she prefers her rice slightly firm. When he mentions that he likes it the same way, she playfully grins, adding that she already knows since he always packs it that way in his lunches. However, the moment he reveals that Honoka saw them together in the library, Himari's face drains of color, and she lets out a panicked shout, her forehead covered in sweat. Tenichi, surprised by her reaction, thinks she's overreacting. Trying to ease her worry, he calmly clarifies that Kanae only saw them together and didn't notice the lunchboxes. With this reassurance, Himari relaxes slightly but admits she can't take back her reputation because the entire class thinks she's an expert cook. Watching her in such a state of fear, he is utterly baffled that something so trivial has rattled her so deeply. After calming down, Hima-Ren reassures herself that Kanae won't tell anyone since she was the only one who saw them. Observing her frazzled state, Tenichi decides to keep the encounter hidden from Kanae, even though he dislikes the idea of lying to her. Later, while they're shopping, she asks Tenichi to accompany her into a makeup store. Feeling awkward, he hesitates, explaining that as a boy, he doesn't belong there. However, she quickly insists that he wait outside and avoids drawing attention. Tenichi is left in awe as he gazes at the impressive display of Himari's beauty products. The sheer scale of her makeup line amazes him, especially knowing that she, a high school girl, started a successful business and created all of this. Their surprise grows when a group of girls enters the mall, eagerly admiring Himari's products. Sensing attention, she quickly grabs Tenichi's hand, pulling him aside to avoid being noticed. As the girls excitedly talk about buying her beauty products to look as cute as her, Hima-Ren beams with joy. While holding onto his sleeve in excitement, Tenichi praises her for doing such an incredible job. Adjusting her hat, she teasingly blames Tenichi for making her show up in front of her fans, to which he quickly and loudly denies any responsibility. Spotting a nearby cafe, she offers him a treat, mentioning that companies often provide refreshments for their employees. Since he's working for her, she insists on treating him, which he happily accepts. Noticing a lengthy line, she asks Tenichi to buy the drinks to avoid being recognized. He playfully teases her about dodging the bill, but with a charming smile, she hands him her credit card and requests a tall hot coffee. With an air of confidence, she heads towards the bathroom. Tenichi, admiring her cool and adorable demeanor, approaches the counter. He's stunned into silence when he realizes the cashier is none other than Honoka Kanae. Kanae, clearly embarrassed, admits she works at the cafe and timidly asks if it's odd. Though initially thrown off, Tenichi swiftly commends her, saying it's an ideal job for her, despite her modest claim that she isn't seeking praise. The situation becomes a bit tense when she curiously questions if he's out shopping. Wanting to keep Yoshino a secret, he nonchalantly confirms he's just there to shop and urges her to speed up with his order as he has to rush off to work. After ordering 2 tall hot coffees with a tense expression, he pulls out his phone, frustrated. Normally, running into Kanae would thrill him, but given the situation, he can't let her see him with Yoshino after school. He quickly texts her, telling her to head straight outside once she's done in the bathroom. As he nervously glances at Kanae, she, while preparing his coffee, calls out to him, remarking that they never got many chances to talk last year but seemed to be crossing paths more often lately. Initially baffled, Tenichi quickly grins and concurs, acknowledging that sharing the same class has been enjoyable. Flashing a smile, Kanae remarks that it's what's made this school year so thrilling. Without glancing his way, she continues, mentioning how Himari's transfer and countless other events have spiced things up, making her believe it's going to be an exciting year. He becomes uneasy, unable to grasp if she's pleased. They're interacting more, but simply contemplating that possibility brings him unexpected joy. As Tenichi takes the coffees from Kanae, he nervously begins to ask her something, but before he can finish, Himari steps in, flashing a smile as she grabs her coffee from him, claiming perfect timing. Sensing tension in his expression, Himari explains hurriedly that the bathroom was crowded, but she suddenly gasps in shock upon noticing Honoka behind the counter. Tenichi, equally stunned, glances at his phone and realizes he never pressed send on the message. Himari, now flustered, tries to steady herself and asks Kanae, with forced calmness, if she works there. Kanae, just as shocked, stands speechless at the unexpected encounter. With a mix of embarrassment, Himari stomps her foot at Tenichi for not telling her Kanae was the cashier. Realizing the situation, Kanae then asks if he ordered 2 coffees, wondering if they were shopping together. Himari, with a dismissive attitude, quickly denies it, explaining that they coincidentally ran into each other since she lives nearby. Kanae's eyes light up with excitement upon hearing that Himari lives there. To maintain the casual tone, Himari flashes a grateful smile, thanking Tenichi for the coffee and adding that now, thanks to him, she'll be able to make her meeting on time. Himari waves goodbye, quickly leaving while saying she's in a hurry and that they'll meet again soon. Watching her go, Tenichi is impressed by her acting skills. Meanwhile, Kanae, with a confused expression, admits she was nervous because she didn't recognize Himari at first due to her casual attire. She also finds it unbelievable that she ran into her twice in one day. Turning to Kanae with notable hesitation, Tenichi tries to assure her that he had no intention of hiding anything. Kanae, noting his intent to clarify, mentions that he was about to explain when Himari interrupted. Tenichi had planned to ask about visiting again, but his chance was interrupted by Himari's arrival. Kanae gently suggests that he treat Himari like any other classmate, despite her celebrity status, reminding him that they share the same classroom. Tenichi agrees, appreciating her perspective. As Tenichi and Himari walk away, he shares Honoka's advice. Himari, surprised, comments on how kind and adorable Kanae is and feels relieved it was her who saw them, not someone who might post about it online. Impressed by Himari's calmness, Tenichi admires her more. However, Himari, frustrated, turns to him, asking if he's calling her diplomatic. She scolds him for not warning her about Kanae's presence and reminds him that keeping their arrangement secret is part of his cleaning duties. Despite her words, Tenichi realizes she doesn't need to hide her true self around Kanae. As they stroll down the street, a few girls spot Himari and, intrigued by her distinctive hair color, ask if Tenichi is her boyfriend. Both, trying to conceal their identities, look visibly anxious. Himari, sensing the urgency, discreetly signals Tenichi to pick up the pace and remain unresponsive. Suddenly, a gust of wind lifts her hat into the air. Reacting swiftly, Tenichi dashes to catch it. However, as Himari notices the girls readying their phones to snap pictures of them, she grabs Tenichi's hand. They sprint away as fast as they can, eventually putting a safe distance between themselves and the crowd. Totally drained, they collapse onto a nearby bench, gasping for breath. Himari, completely spent, quips that this escapade could replace a month of workouts. He advises her to regulate her breathing, but Himari, with deep concern, reveals that navigating a commercial district was fraught with danger. She frets over the risk of being photographed or, worse, having Tenichi falsely identified as her boyfriend on social media. He shares his unease, noting that while the girls might not have captured her face, there's still a chance they could depict him as her boyfriend. This revelation sends Himari into a state of alarm, her face reflecting her genuine worry. She insists, with palpable anxiety, that as her employee, he needs to be protected from such scrutiny, and she's determined to prevent anyone from misconstruing their relationship. Tenichi understands her concern and reassures her, recognizing her genuine intentions. Himari, her face etched with worry, glances at her shirt and laments the coffee stain on her sleeve. Frantically waving her hand to dry the spill, she adds that she also lost her hat, which was quite expensive. Tenichi, concerned, offers her his coffee, but she insists he keep it. Observing her stained shirt, he requests permission to inspect it. Kneeling in front of her on the concrete block, he surprises her by revealing that removing stains is part of his cleaning expertise. Himari, impressed by Tenichi's resourcefulness, grants him permission to clean her shirt. He assures her he'll handle it at her place. Noticing her puzzled expression, he grins and reveals his Tenichi brush and Tenichi soap, tools he's humorously named after himself. She scolds him with a smirk, calling him a loser for branding his gear, and they share a light-hearted exchange. In the cafeteria, during break time, Kanae, her heart heavy, clutches a card she meant to give to Tenichi. The card, marked with a smiley face, invites him to return. With tears welling in her eyes, she tucks the card away in her pocket and wistfully recalls the moments Himari and Tenichi shared in class. She silently yearns for the chance to sit beside him, her emotions a blend of longing and sadness. During a casual lunchtime at school, Himari's classmates marvel at her delectable lunch, impressed by her cooking skills despite her demanding job. With a playful wink, she explains that cooking has become her hobby. Initially taken aback when the girls request cooking lessons, she quickly regains her composure and agrees, wanting to end the conversation. Meanwhile, Tenichi, seated a short distance away and enjoying his own meal, finds their chatter about her cooking skills increasingly routine. Noticing Honoka jotting something on the board, Himari, with a curious smile, inquires about it. Kanai, brimming with enthusiasm, reveals that she's drafting their weekly schedule and shares the exciting news that Himari is in luck. Tomorrow's cooking class will feature Hamburg steaks. Himari's eyes widen in surprise as she glances at Imori. During their free time at school, Himari meets Tenichi in the library to hand over his lunchbox. Noticing her tearful expression, he asks if she's all right. Through her sobs, she confesses her fear of disappointing everyone with her cooking, as she doesn't know how to make the steaks. He reassures her that she has today to prepare, but she protests that mastering it in a day is impossible. He then suggests, with renewed determination, that they go to her house so he can teach her the recipe. Though initially unsure if it's part of his duties, she realizes the urgency of the situation and agrees for his help, considering she's adjusted her schedule for this. At Himari's house, they're both in the kitchen, aprons on, with Himari clutching a recipe book. She asks if she needs to follow all the written instructions for the class. Tenichi assures her that it's a straightforward recipe, emphasizing its simplicity and the basics she can easily master. As they unpack the ingredients from the shopping bag, he explains that the main components for the steak. He outlines the simple steps: mix the seasonings, knead the mixture, and grill the steaks. Surprised by the simplicity, Himari feels more at ease, finding the task manageable. Tenichi demonstrates how to chop onions with precision and advises her to follow this technique in class. However, Himari, overwhelmed, protests that she can't master such skills overnight. Realizing her lack of cooking experience, Tenichi firmly encourages her to give it a try. Despite the uneven cuts, he reassures her not to expect perfection right away, motivating her to keep practicing and stay positive. As Himari chops the onions, tears stream down her face. Tenichi reassures her, explaining that the onion's allyl sulfides cause the tearing. Frustrated by his detailed explanation, Himari impatiently dismisses it. Despite her repeated attempts, the hamburgers remain unappetizingly misshapen. Exasperated, she questions why her efforts aren't yielding better results despite following his instructions. Observing the odd-looking patties, Tenichi notes that the issue lies in her chopping, kneading, and grilling techniques. He recognizes that her current attempts are an improvement over the previous ones, encouraging her to keep going. As Himari peels the onions with a heavy heart, she questions whether she can really handle this task and wonders if she should take a break from school. Her sorrow is evident as she admits to Tenichi that it's crucial to her, despite her fears of failure. Watching him clean the frying pan, she expresses her frustration, feeling utterly inadequate. With a deeply emotional tone, she confides that she's trying to avoid the situation, even though it's deeply troubling her. She believes that in class, no one would notice her absence because Tenichi would be there. Tenichi is taken aback by this and clarifies that they are not in the same group. Himari, however, insists that it doesn't matter as they sit close to each other, revealing the importance of their proximity to her. As Tenichi ponders, he explains that seating assignments aren't based on attendance numbers. His is 1, while Himari's is 32. He clarifies that their groups were determined by their numbers from the previous year. Upon realizing she won't be seated next to him, Himari, with intense frustration, decides she might as well skip school tomorrow. Tenichi, stunned, then grasps that Himari will be sitting next to Kanai. With a grin, Tenichi reveals his genuine excitement, but upon seeing Himari's agitated expression, he clarifies he's thrilled to support her. Despite her concern, he reassures her with a warm smile that his excitement is sincere. By thinking, Tenichi then shares that she'll be in a group with Yokomizo and Yamada, whom she already dined with, leaving her quite astonished. While they chat, she glances at her phone, and her anxiety spikes as she reads messages from both girls. The messages reveal they bought her beauty products and are eagerly anticipating her cooking tomorrow. When he insists that skipping school is not an option, Himari, in a burst of shock, exclaims she never seriously considered it. Despite finding onion chopping monotonous, he urges her to buckle down, pointing out her initial lack of seriousness. Motivated by his words, she resolves to give it another earnest attempt. The next day at school, as students don their aprons and gather around the stoves, Himari unveils her dish with a flourish. The girls erupt in admiration, captivated by her culinary skills. Though tears well in her eyes, she shouts out, overwhelmed by the pressure, causing a momentary stir among her peers. Realizing their concern, she quickly reassures them, explaining her anxiety stemmed from a desire not to let anyone down. Meanwhile, Tenichi breathes a sigh of relief, impressed by her dedication and ability to meet her fans' expectations. Kanai, enjoying the meal, praises the food with delight, and with a smile acknowledges that his cooking skills are indeed commendable. Upon arriving at Himari's home, Tenichi is greeted by a sink overflowing with dirty dishes, reminiscent of the state from his first visit. Himari, unbothered, remarks that it's his second visit in 2 days and playfully suggests that he should feel lucky. She then presents a plate of homemade hamburgers, confessing with an innocent smile that she made them just for him. Tenichi, puzzled by her gesture, is nonetheless grateful and begins to eat. As he savors the delicious meal, Himari watches from the stairs, her eyes filled with warmth and affection. When he inquires if she needs anything, she shyly stands and thanks him for his help the previous day before retreating to her room, leaving Tenichi touched by her sincere gesture.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.